Watch the following animations. The reason why we have 2 ears and only 1 mouth is that we may listen the more and talk the less. Quote by Zeno. Watch the following animations. The reason why we have 2 ears and only 1 mouth is that we may listen the more and talk the less. Quote by Zeno of Citium. Listening and speaking. Listening is the act of hearing attentively or the process through which we receive, construct meaning, and respond to spoken and or nonverbal messages. Introduction to listening and speaking. Watch the following video.
I feel so privileged to be part of this function. I met with the principal, who is a great friend of mine, and mentioned to me about this day. I was to go back on Wednesday back to Nairobi. I said, let me stay behind until I'm here today. And yesterday, I really spoke to the students already. And I would like just to do a short message to the parents. As you heard, my name is Pepe Minambo. I am a motivational speaker. I also write books. I've got about 3 books. The first one is titled, Be Inspired.
How does the motivational speaker capture the attention of the audience? Is the speaker a good orator? Discuss your answer with your classmates. Does the speaker succeed in motivating the audience, and what is the topic being discussed? Is the topic relevant to the context? Listening and speaking are the most basic language skills. The 2 skills are referred to as oral and oral skills respectively. The word oral describes language as you hear it, while the word oral refers to what we say. The 2 words are homophones. Homophones are words with the same pronunciation but different spellings. Other examples of homophones are right and right. Although listening and speaking cannot be separated, they should be developed differently. In order to be proficient in a language, we ought to listen more than we speak. Listening. The wise owl. A wise old owl sat in an oak. The more he saw, the less he spoke. The less he spoke, the more he had. Why can't we be like that wise old bird? Listening helps us to receive, attend, evaluate, and assign meaning to sound. It is a conscious process which requires concentration and effort. The listening process involves receiving sounds, interpreting, evaluating, and responding to them. Therefore, good listeners must pay close attention and make sense of.
The less he spoke, the more he had. Why can't we be like?
Watch the following animations. How to listen attentively. The following are examples of ways in which you can listen attentively. Maintain eye contact with the speaker. Sit straight and in an upright posture to signal to the speaker that you are listening. Show gestures which represent attentive listening, such as nodding the head. Never interrupt a speaker. Concentrate on the complete speech and not just a portion of the message. Never give your views unless you are asked to do so. Take note of the speaker's verbal and nonverbal behavior. Paraphrase, restate, or summarize the message. Take notes for future reference. Ask questions. Bad listening habits. Interrupting the speaker and showing impatience. Not making eye contact and allowing one's eyes to wander. Being distracted and/or fidgety and not paying attention to the speaker. Not showing interest in the speaker. Not giving appropriate verbal and/or non-verbal feedback to the speaker. Changing the topic. talking too much, giving unsolicited advice, not taking notes or outlining everything, faking attention, listening only for facts, daydreaming, overreacting or letting emotional words block the message, focusing on a person instead of the content, and getting ahead of the speaker and finishing her thoughts. Speaking. Speaking is communicating using the spoken language and is the second language skill. An individual cannot be considered proficient in a language unless he or she is fluent or eloquent in that language. The ability to speak a language is the product of language learning. However, speaking is also a crucial part of the language learning process. The main objective of learning a language is communication, whereas the purpose of speaking in a language context is to improve communicative efficiency. Speaking serves several functions in our lives. To begin with, it helps us to express our thoughts through words. Secondly, it enables us to socialize with others. Thirdly, through speaking, people are able to gratify their listeners and to obtain rewards. It is therefore important to strive to excel in speech. If we build up our speaking skills sufficiently, we will be able to present information in a clear, accurate, and interesting way. We ought to make a conscious effort to improve our speaking skills. This is because fluency and eloquence in a language will open up job, education, and travel opportunities. Indeed, being able to communicate with others is an asset. When speaking publicly, ensure the following. Be presentable. Use stress appropriately. Have a clean sense of humor. Maintain eye contact with your audience. Use gestures properly. Make sure you're audible. Know when to lower and raise your voice to avoid monotony. Make sure your posture is upright. Introduction. Oral poetry is a verbal expression of ideas, thoughts, and feelings as experienced by an artist in a given environment. The oral artist utilizes verbal and non-verbal cues to give an impressionable performance to an active audience. Tone and pitch are key in the delivery of the oral poetry. Forms of oral poetry. Epic. An epic is a long poem sung about the deeds of a hero. For example, Shaka Zulu or Sundiata. Ballads. These are narrative poems that tell a story that focuses on a particular episode. Watch a video clip of the song Taxi Driver by Daudi Kabaka. In your opinion, what do you think is the theme of the song? An example of an oral poem. Watch the following recitation of the poem I Shall Return. I shall return. I shall return. Again, I shall return. To laugh and love and watch with wonder eyes. At golden noon, the forest fires burn, wafting their blue-black smoke to sapphire skies. I shall return to loiter by the streams that bathe the brown blades of the bending grasses and realize once more my thousand dreams of waters rushing down the mountain passes. I shall return to hear delicious tunes that stars that hidden depth of native life. Stray melodies of dim remembered tunes I shall return. I shall return again to ease my mind of long, long years of pain. Features of oral poetry. The features of the oral poem you have just watched can be easily identified. They are as follows. Sound patterns. Alliteration. Alliteration is the repetition of the initial consonant sounds, for example, laugh and love. Watch with wonder eyes. Bathe brown blades bending. Rhyme. Rhyme refers to the matching of sounds at the end of lines in a poem. The sound and not the spelling of words is important. For example, return eyes streams. Burn cries dreams. Repetition. Repetition is the recurrence of a word or a line. For example, I shall return. Long, long. These sound patterns create a rhythm in oral poetry, thus making it musical and interesting. Another feature of oral poetry is that it is topical. This means that it relates to the contemporary issues of the immediate environment from which it is drawn. Oral poetry also engages the audience on a one-on-one basis and makes them identify with the feelings of the artist. Now watch the following video clips. Having watched the video clips, which one do you find most captivating and why? Summary. In this lesson, we have learned the following. Sound patterns such as alliteration, rhyme, and repetition are crucial in oral poetry. They are the pillars that the oral composer and performer depend on to deliver the message of his or her poem. Oral poetry deals with topical issues affecting the society. Choice of words is key to the creation of vivid mental images. A good oral artist engages the audience actively. Proverbs. Proverbs are short, pithy statements with hidden meanings. They embody a community's philosophy of life. Proverbs can also be defined as short sayings of wisdom with hidden meanings. They are also referred to as adages or sayings. People who aptly use proverbs are greatly admired for their eloquence. Consider the hidden meaning in each of the following proverbs. Observe the animation below. One finger does not kill a louse. Many hands make light work. Do not abuse the crocodile when you are still in the water. Do not put all your eggs in one basket. Examples of proverbs and their meanings. Do not put all your eggs in one basket. A clear understanding of the context could be important to unravel what the eggs and basket imply. This proverb means that it is not safe to invest in one given area or have hope in only one line. Always diversify, because if you invest in one particular venture and everything goes bad, then you will lose everything. At the same time, the proverb cautions people against investing unwisely. From this example, we can deduce that proverbs have hidden meanings. One finger cannot kill a louse. It is common knowledge that killing a louse requires more than one finger. However, this proverb should not be interpreted literally. Indeed, the proverb means that people should work together in order to cope with the challenges of life. Note that proverbs may be used to say something in a veiled manner. In addition, they are used to give weight in discussions enliven conversations, and are a mark of being a good orator. Proverbs may also perform the following functions. They educate and inform on norms, values, and ethics. They entertain. They warn, caution, advise, ridicule, or mock socially unacceptable behavior. They help in settling disputes. Features of Proverbs. Proverbs have the following features. Observe the following animation. Alliteration. For example, forgive and forget. Parallelism. For example, no pain, no gain. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. Rhyme. For example, when the cat is away, the rat will play. Ellipses. For example, once bitten, twice shy. 1 is odd, 2 is even, and 3 is 1, odd too many. Puns. Repetition. For example, where there is a will, there is a way. Hyperbole. For example, all is fair in love and war. Paradox. For example, for there to be peace, there must be war. Personification. For example, hunger is the best cook. Metaphor. For example, do not put all your eggs in one basket. Allusion. For example, the leopard cannot change its spots. Making an oral report. Watch the following video. An oral report is a presentation to a target audience which can either be planned or impromptu. A planned report requires preparation, while an impromptu speech is determined by the situation. Watch the following video attentively. What characteristics of a good report can you identify? Discuss with your friends. Preparing for an oral presentation. The following guidelines should be followed when preparing for an oral presentation. Identify the topic you are going to make the presentation on. Know your subject well in order to be confident. Think about the composition of the audience, because this will determine the kind of language to use as well as the depth of content. Plan the visual aids you're going to use. This could be photographs, live specimens, or PowerPoint presentations. Prepare short notes or flashcards. Components of an oral report. Watch the following video attentively. An oral report should have the following sections. Introduction. The introduction can be made interesting by telling an anecdote, asking a thought-provoking question, and giving a relevant quotation. Body. In this section, issues are highlighted and presented sequentially. Each point is given adequate but relevant information, which includes description and/or illustration. In this section, visual aids should be used appropriately to enhance the presentation. Conclusion. This is a brief summary or a voiced opinion which signals that the report is being wound up. No new ideas should be introduced here. Watch a brief report on a charity walk for cancer awareness. Have you ever had a moment to reflect on what would happen if you were diagnosed with a terminal illness? If not, then that is food for thought. One day, our class visited Bingi Hospital to participate in a charity walk to raise funds for breast cancer awareness. We had time and opportunity to listen to cancer patients' experiences on how they have positively coped with their state. We helped clean the hospital compound and blocked the drainage system, cooked for the patients and presented a skit. Later, we participated in a 2-kilometer walk to raise 1 million shillings for cancer patients. Finally, the hospital thanked and urged us to regularly visit them in order to create further awareness. We returned to school feeling enlightened. Provide answers to the following questions. Confirm the answers by making meaningful consultations. What preparations did the students make before presenting this report? Was the report delivered effectively? What other cues could the student have used to deliver this report? Impromptu report. Watch the following video clip which features a dialogue between Malia and an officer. Do you think Malia's report to the police officer is convincing? Observe the verbal and non-verbal communication of both Malia and the officer. List down all the non-verbal cues of communication that Malia uses. Do they make her report more effective? Additional information. In unforeseen situations, we are called upon to give accounts of issues that befall us. Malia had to give a detailed description of her encounter with the street urchins who stole her phone. The ability to provide precise information that one can recollect under difficult circumstances is crucial. Note the following. One has to do the following: speak calmly, speak coherently, describe events in a chronological as well as logical manner, and use verbal and nonverbal cues appropriately. Summary. In real-life situations, one may be required to give a report. The report may either be a planned or an impromptu one. One should take note of the following points in order to present an organized report. To start with, they should possess a good mastery of their subject. Secondly, the presenter ought to consider the composition of his or her audience. In addition, there is need to plan the visual aids to be used. Finally, it is advisable to prepare short notes for quick reference during the presentation. During the actual presentation, one should have a captivating introduction and a well-linked body. A good presentation also involves proper use of both verbal and non-verbal cues. Words which convey politeness. Watch the following video clip of a conversation involving students. The setting is a classroom in a mixed school. For communication to take place, there must be two participants, the speaker and the listener. The language used by the speaker will determine the response of the listener. It is therefore necessary for participants to be aware of the basic conventions in ordinary language use which convey good manners in social discourse. There are several words and phrases of common courtesy and politeness that you should be familiar with. These include thank you, may I, please, excuse me, pardon me, yes sir or yes madam, among others. The usage of polite expressions is not limited to the classroom situation. On the contrary, it extends to all social settings. Grammar. Grammar is the systematic study of description of a language. It is a study of the system of rules which govern the formation of clauses, phrases, and words. It also involves studying how words and their component parts combine to form sentences. Functions of nouns in sentences. As we have noted, a noun is a naming word. Nouns have various functions in a sentence. A toss called the goal. Honesty is a great virtue. The river burst its banks. The grey cat drank the milk. Nouns as subjects in sentences. Nouns as subjects in sentences. Read the following sentences. Read the following sentences. She boarded the electric train. She boarded the electric train. Philip drove off in a shiny saloon car. The underlined words in sentences 1 and 2 are nouns, while those in sentences 3 and 4 are noun phrases. A noun is a single naming word, while a noun phrase has more than one word, which can be an article, and a noun or an article, a modifier, and a noun. All the highlighted words have been used as subjects in the above sentences. The subject of a sentence refers to the person, idea, place, or thing that is being talked about. Nouns as objects in sentences. Let us again consider the following sentences. Observe the following animations. We bought fruits. Jane should kill the rat. Peter likes coffee. Koech bought a camel. The underlined words fruits, rat, coffee, and camel have been used as objects in the sentences. An object of a sentence is the part of the sentence that receives the action of the subject. To identify the object in a sentence, we ask the question, what was done or who received the action? For example, in the sentence, we bought fruits. You should ask the question, what was bought? The answer is fruits. The word fruit is the noun used as an object in the above sentence. Additional information on nouns as object. Watch the following animation. Some sentences can have two objects, a direct object and an indirect object. For example, the boy kicked the ball to his friend. Fatuma gave Pauline the book. Maina bought his daughter a laptop. The principal gave the students a treat. The direct object is the direct receiver of the action. For example, in the sentence, the boy kicked the ball to his friend, the direct object is the ball. The indirect object answers the questions to whom or for whom. For example, the boy kicked the ball to his friend. In the sentence above, the indirect object is his friend because it answers the question, to whom was the ball kicked? Nouns as complements in sentences. Complements give more information about the subject or object. Subject complement. Subject complements give more information about the subject. Consider the following sentences. View the following animation. This computer is expensive. These girls are beautiful. I am generous. Peter became a journalist. Mombasa is a tourist destination. The subject complement must refer to the subject of the sentence, which can either be a place, a person, or a thing. The subject complement comes after the various forms of the verb to be, am, is, are, was, were, or other linking verbs such as become, appear, and seems. The verb must agree in number with the subject. The subject complement is not affected by the action of the verbs. Object complements. An object complement modifies the object in a sentence. For example, view the following animation. The parents consider Maina a good teacher. Summary. In this lesson, we looked at the functions of nouns in sentences. Nouns can function as the subject, object, or complement of a sentence. Note that the subject of a sentence refers to the person or thing performing the action. The object refers to the receiver of the action, whereas the complement is the modifier of either the subject or the object. Interrogative pronouns. Read the following questions. Who paid your school fees? What are we having for supper? Whom did you give your keys to? Which is the direction to the cyber cafe? Whose chair is broken? The words who, what, whom, which, and whose are used to ask questions. They are known as interrogative pronouns. Uses of interrogative pronouns. Interrogative pronouns have different uses. Who and whom. Read the following questions. Who ate the cake? Who has completed the assignment? Whom did you give the book? For whom was the letter written? Note that who is used when referring to the subject of a question. Consider the following example. Somebody ate your cake. Who ate your cake? Who is the subject of the verb ate? Whom is used when referring to the object. Consider the following example. The letter was written for somebody. For whom was the letter written? Whom is the object of the verb written. Whose. Read the following questions. Whose birthday is it? Whose car was stolen? We use whose as an interrogative pronoun when the expected answer is in the possessive case. In the question, whose birthday is it? The possible answers could be the person or persons whose birthday falls on that day, for example, Halima's or Muiti's. These are the possessive forms. Note that who, whom, and whose are used when the answer is referring to a person. Which. Read the following sentences. Which are your friends? Which is the way? Which clothes are yours? Which is used for both person and things to imply a selection of a restricted number. For example, in question 3, which clothes are yours? The sentence means that there is a collection of clothes from which you select those that belong to you. Relative pronouns. Relative pronouns differ from interrogative pronouns in their use. Consider the following examples. Whose book is this? Interrogative. This is the gentleman whose car was stolen. Relative. In the first sentence, the pronoun whose is used to ask a question, whereas in the second sentence, the pronoun whose is used to refer back to the subject without repeating it. Read the following sentences. The student who reported yesterday is in class. My phone, which was in the room, is lost. I saw the girl whom you met at the shop. I bought the book whose author won the Best Sellers Award. In sentences 1 and 2, the relative pronoun. Other uses of relative pronouns. Relative pronouns can also be used to link clauses or act as conjunctions. Consider the following examples. This is the doctor. He treated my mother. This is the doctor who treated my mother. The bags fell off the moving lorry. They were torn. The bags which fell off the moving lorry were torn. The relative pronouns who and which have been used to link two clauses to avoid unnecessary repetition. Note that when we link the two clauses using a relative pronoun, one of the sentences becomes a relative clause. Omission of relative pronouns. In some cases, the relative pronoun can be omitted without altering the meaning of the affected sentences. Look at the following sentences. I saw the girl whom you met at the shop. I saw the girl you met at the shop. The magazine which you gave me is lost. The magazine you gave me is lost. In sentences 1b and 2b, the relative pronouns have been left out, yet that has not altered the meaning of the sentences. In the two instances, the relative pronouns have been used as objects in a sentence. They can be omitted without affecting the meaning of the sentence. Summary. In the lesson, we have learnt the following. Interrogative pronouns are used to introduce questions. Relative pronouns are used to refer back to the subject and object without repeating them and to link clauses. It is important to note that and which as relative pronouns can be used interchangeably. The difference between interrogative and relative pronouns lies in their use. We also have compound relative pronouns such as whoever, whichever, whatsoever, whomever, and whosoever, which are used as subjects. When relative pronouns are used as objects in a sentence, they can be omitted without affecting the meaning of the sentence. Introduction to participle phrases. A participle phrase may be defined as a group of words that modify a noun or pronoun in a sentence. A participle phrase begins with the present or past participle and it functions as an adjective. Read the following sentences, taking note of the underlined words. Also, pay attention to the pictures provided after each sentence. Watch the following animation. Thinking the road was clear, the boy attempted to cross the road. Promising not to be late, Yuma left for town. Frightened by the cat, the baby started crying. The principal, disappointed by the poor results, refused to reward the students. Yesterday, I relaxed by the poolside listening to music. The underlined words such as thinking the road was clear, position of participle phrases in sentences. Participle phrases can be placed in any of the following positions. At the beginning of a sentence, before the noun, it qualifies. For example, standing by the roadside, Juma saw the thieves snatch Kageni's handbag. Shaken by the experience, Kageni vowed never to carry a handbag. In the middle of the sentence, after the noun, it qualifies. For example, Judy, having missed breakfast, was very irritable. The teacher, excited at the students' mastery of content, promised them a trip to Masai Mara. Summary. Participle phrases are formed by using present participle and past participles to qualify nouns or pronouns. The present participles are formed by adding the suffix ing to the verb. The past participle is formed by adding ed, t, d, n, or en to the verb. Note, when participle phrases are used, the two actions in the sentence need to refer to the same subject, whether they are active actions that the subject does or they are passive actions done to the subject. A participle phrase can be made negative by placing the word not in front of the participle. For example, not worried by the cold weather, the teacher promised to take the students to the Masai Mara game park. Remember that a participle phrase introduced by a present participle should not be confused with a gerund. The two are different. What is a clause? A clause is a group of two or more words that have a subject and a main verb. It can either be independent or dependent. A dependent clause is not meaningful on its own. An independent clause is meaningful on its own. For example, if it rains today, we shall not go to town. If it rains today is a dependent clause. We shall not go to town is an independent clause. Inversion. Inversion is the change of word
order in a sentence without affecting its meaning. It is mainly done for emphasis. Listen to the following sentences. Look at the two cartoons as they read the sentences below. I have done the work.
Have you done the work?
I have never been so upset.
Never have I been more upset.
I had just finished supper when she walked in.
No sooner had I finished supper than she walked in.
Please call should he decide to come.
Should he decide to come, please call.
I enjoy classical music. I enjoy swimming.
Not only do I enjoy classical music, but I also swim.
The sentences in B are inverted forms of the sentences in A.
Substitution. It is the replacement of a word, phrase, or a clause with another to avoid unnecessary repetition. Listen to the following sentences. Koech takes a lot of milk. His wife takes a lot of milk too. Now, consider the following sentence. Koech and his wife take a lot of milk. You realize that in the second sentence, we have avoided unnecessary repetition of the phrase, a lot of milk. Musa fried meat. He had boiled it earlier. In the sentences above, he substitutes Musa while it substitutes meat. Summary. In this lesson, we have learned that in inversion, there is a change in the word order in a sentence without altering the meaning. When there is no auxiliary verb in a sentence, during inversion, you introduce the auxiliary verb do, does, or did. Substitution is the replacement of a word, phrase, or clause with another, for example, pronoun, to avoid unnecessary repetition. Ellipsis is the omission of words or phrases in order to avoid repetition or if the meaning is pretty obvious. Ellipses can occur at the beginning, middle, or at the end. Reading. Reading is the ability to derive meaning from written or printed symbols. Reading gives us insights into other people's cultures, especially when we read literary works. Reading widely improves our language competence. The benefits of reading are as follows: helping readers polish their vocabulary and grammar, giving people insights into the structure of various texts and how they are put together, helping in the acquisition of information on language use in different cultures. The following activities will help you improve your reading skills: previewing, predicting, skimming, and scanning, guessing from context, and paraphrasing. Begin by reviewing titles, headings, and photo captions so as to gain an idea of the subject matter. Then make predictions based on the subject matter obtained from previewing. Read pieces of the text in order to confirm or refute predictions made and determine the main idea of the text and its structure. The next activity involves using prior knowledge of a subject and previous activities to guess at the meaning of certain words and sections. The last step is the rephrasing of what one has read in order to check for comprehension. Reading skills: scanning, skimming, study reading, critical reading, and the SQ3R reading method are examples of reading skills. Scanning is going through a text quickly to locate specific information, for example, when looking for a specific word in a dictionary. Skimming means rapidly going through a text so as to get the general idea. Study reading is reading in order to fully understand and recall as much as possible of what you have read without critiquing the text, for instance, when you study a geography text. Critical reading refers to the analytical reading of a text. You not only understand what it contains, but also critique it and compare the information you obtained with your personal experiences. Students read critically when they analyze literary works such as The Whale Rider or When the Sun Goes Down and other stories in preparation for examinations. The abbreviation SQ3R stands for Surveying, Question, Reading, Reciting, and Reviewing. The method involves the following: S. Surveying before reading. Q. Outline a few questions to be answered after reading the text. R. Reading the material thoughtfully by focusing on definitions, topic sentences, and chapter headings. R. Reciting or recalling answers to your questions. Review. This means rereading the parts you have not understood. Types of oral literature. When reading oral literature, one has to ask, what is oral literature? Oral literature is the work of art whose media is the oral word. Every community is rich in this type of literature in its various forms. Below are types of oral literature. Features of oral literature. Oral literature is that work of art that can be created anew each time it is told. Each genre of oral literature has a special marker that distinguishes it from another. For example, in narratives, we have the opening formula. It can be repackaged to suit all seasons. Its mode of communication is the word of mouth. Narratives. They are divided into various categories. Myths. Stories relating to creation and the fact that there is a supreme being who is responsible for these phenomena. Legends. These are heroic tales. Etiological stories. They explain why certain things are the way they are. Trickster narratives. A character uses his wit to dupe others. Ogre or monster narratives. They involve imaginary beings that change their forms depending on the situation. They have grotesque physical features and are evil. Dilemma narratives. These are stories in which characters are faced with two or more choices to make, each with inherent consequences, thus making it hard to decide. Read the following narrative. The man who lived with the tribe of his wife. There was a man, it is said, who lived with the ethnic group of his wife. One day he said to his wife, "We are moving away, tell your people." So she told her people, and they gave him the customary gifts and returned to him part of his bride wealth. Then this man, who had been living with his family and wife, set off on his journey, and after he had walked all day, he set up camp in a certain place. He said to his wife, "Woman, there is a matter I have to discuss with the people whom we left, and I am going back to them. Pen the animals and wait for me." So he went back, and when he reached the village in the late evening, he sat down in the clearing by the huts, intending to eavesdrop. The people were gossiping about him, and someone said, "Well, let us give our opinion of that man who stayed with our tribe for such a long time." "He was a good man," said one. "By God, he was a brave man. By God, he was a generous man. By God, he looked after the animals well. By God, he had some knowledge of man." The whole village praised him, and all the time the man was listening. There was a pause, and then a young girl spoke. "But I know something about him that was bad. He didn't go far away enough from the huts when he urinated." At this, the whole village burst into laughter, but the eavesdropper was so angry that he stood up and said to them, "Well, by God, I have moved far away enough now," to the great astonishment of the whole village. Features of oral narratives. Oral narratives have the following features. Listen to music from an obokano and then answer the question below. What purpose would music play in the narration of a story? View the following animation. Opening formula, which can be long time ago, once upon a time, or there was once. The opening formula alerts the audience that the story is beginning. Characters do extraordinary things which are not possible in reality. For example, someone eating a whole cow. Timelessness. The narrative cannot be ascribed to a particular time in the history of mankind. A long time ago can be any time. Moral lesson. Narratives have teachings. Closing formula. Brings back the audience to the world of reality from the world of fantasy. Songs. There are various categories of songs. Lullabies, songs sung to soothe the baby. Children's play songs. Work songs. Dirges. Love songs. War songs. Political songs. Spiritual songs and praise songs which commend deeds, heroes and events that happen in the society, and initiation songs that depict rites of passage, and they include circumcision and wedding songs. Read the following oral poem. Read the following genre of oral literature. In this riddle, we ought to note the following: who the challenger is, acceptance by the audience, guesses, the prize, acceptance of the prize, and the answer. proverbs. Proverbs are a short pithy saying. Riddles are short witty sayings. Tongue twisters are short repetitive sayings. Note that questions posed in a riddle are from objects found in the environment. Functions of riddles. They teach children about items in the environment. They allow the challenger to practice to become a narrator of longer and more complex genres, and they promote critical thinking. Summary. In this lesson, we have learned that oral literature reflects a people's way of life, experiences, and concerns as captured through the medium of the spoken word. The oral word and performance are its key components. It is a reflection of our beliefs, practices, and concerns. The genres of oral literature are narratives, songs, and short forms. In narratives, the characters are human beings, animals, and supernatural beings. The various genres are understood well by elaborating on the aspects of theme, features of style, characterization, and more importantly, the moral lesson. Therefore, intensive reading is a vital skill that assists in paying attention to detail when studying the various genres of oral literature. It is important to note that extensive reading. Extensive reading is an approach to language learning by means of reading a wide range of literary and non-literary materials. This type of reading ensures that there is a lot of reading of interesting material that is slightly below, at, or barely above the full comprehension level to the reader, leading to improved language skills. Look at the following pictures which feature people in various settings. Benefits of extensive reading. Extensive reading exposes you to reading materials that are within your level, both in terms of grammatical knowledge and vocabulary. You read as much as possible for pleasure, information, or general information. It improves your reading speed as you read material that can be easily understood. How to develop extensive reading skills. Extensive reading skills can be developed by visiting both a school and public library, sourcing material from the internet, journals, magazines, and newspapers, reading and writing by listening to stories and public speakers and investigating topical issues and writing reports on them. Now read the following passage. Ensure that you time yourself. Natural means to good health. When I am out and about, I meet people who comment about my column. They then tell me that while the advice may be good, they are on so much medication that they feel it's simply not worth trying to change things. After all, their doctors have told them that they'll be on their medication forever anyway. So today, I want to talk about Robert, a 55-year-old man who fits that profile perfectly. He took 3 different medications for his diabetes, 2 for his blood pressure, most likely caused by the diabetes, and another for his cholesterol. He'd had a bypass about 5 years ago and believed that he was a victim of his family history. He wasn't very happy when I told him that in the case of type 2 diabetes, the Maxim genes load the gun, but lifestyle pulls the trigger. Very much applies. You see, while Robert was relatively healthy now, for years he'd been a heavy drinker. Believe it or not, more than 3 to 4 units in any night is considered too much, even though the weekly allowance for a man is 18 to 20 units, that is, 1 unit is a measure of spirits, a glass of wine, or a 300 ml bottle of beer. It's also worth knowing that saving up your weekly allowance and drinking it all in one night is a massive no. For women, it's no more than 2 to 3 units a day and 14 units a week. What's alcohol got to do with diabetes? While moderate amounts of alcohol can cause blood sugar to rise, especially true of beer and sweet wine, too much alcohol can actually decrease your blood sugar level, sometimes causing it to drop to dangerous levels. Furthermore, as we all know, alcohol stimulates your appetite, and chances are you'll eat exactly the wrong things. So what should Robert do now? From the passage you have just read, we realize that extensive reading helps in improving vocabulary. We have learned new words such as bypass, gazole, cholesterol, soluble fiber, and glycemic. Helps in improving grammatical competence such as the use of anecdotes involving Robert, the 55-year-old man, the maxim, load the gun but lifestyle pulls the trigger. Quotations from Serenity Prayers, which says, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. Helps in reading for information and general understanding. From the passage, we learn that, in spite of diseases like diabetes and high blood pressure, one can still live a relatively healthy life. Stress reduction is an important part of controlling blood pressure. Cinnamon increases glucose metabolism. Generally, extensive reading helps in improving one's reading speed. Summary: extensive reading mainly takes place out of class. Its main objective should be enjoyment and interest. Note that it is important to read widely so as to improve your perception of the life around you. A follow-up activity to extensive reading would be occasional discussions with others about what you have read, whether it was interesting or not, and why. As you do this, avoid tasks which require detailed reports or lengthy summaries. Remember, as it is with other reading skills, to skim for the general idea and scan to locate specific information. As earlier observed, extensive reading generates a continuous hidden learning which eventually culminates in vocabulary acquisition. Comprehension skills. You are expected to read a range of texts, select essential points, and apply inference and deduction where appropriate. You will be expected to pick out answers from what you have read and understood from the passage. Some questions will require you to reorganize the material at hand and rewrite it using your own words. You may be required to use your own words to give information, your opinion, and even judge a situation critically.
Read the comprehension passage below and then attempt the quiz. Will I really survive in this house? At first, the headmaid scared me because of her size and how the other servants feared her. But I gathered courage and refused to be looked down upon by anybody. So, when she asked me what tribe I was, I just answered, I am a Kenyan. She was shocked because I refused to give her a direct answer. Later, after she left me alone, one maid encouraged me, do not worry about Rosa. She is a bit rough, but we are used to her. I am Susan. We will be the ones training you. I relaxed and felt more comfortable. After I was shown my quarters, I wore my new uniform. The servants' quarters were huge, with 6 rooms and 2 bathrooms. I started work immediately. I thought Susan would be the one giving me instructions on my duties, but I was disappointed to find that she was in charge of the kitchen only. Rosa was the one in charge She made me scrub the place. She would know what to do, come to inspect my work. She gave orders and called out commands, and she expected me to memorize them. Walls are washed weekly. Tiles are scrubbed with bleach. Windowsills and grills are wiped daily, and all the wooden furniture is polished 3 times a week, she said quickly. She also showed me the different materials for polishing metal tiles, the shower, the windows and mirrors, and for carpets and sofas. I wondered if I would remember all these things. Shaking my head, I asked myself, this job promised to pay a lot, but the work is so much. Will I really make it? From the Standard Magazine of Saturday, the 22nd of November, 2010.
Summary. For you to gain mastery of comprehension skills, you need to practice answering as many comprehension questions as possible. It is important to note that comprehension questions demand specific answers which are relevant and cover the required scope. You can form an opinion based on the information given in the passage.
Writing. When people learn a language, they usually learn to listen first, then to speak, then to read, and finally to write. Writing is therefore the most complex of the 4 language skills. In language learning, written communication is really important. Writing is not as stressful as speaking to many people, since the scrutiny for mistakes is less selective than in speaking. However, written work is concrete, thus making it open to closer examination and correction. In order to write effectively, we need to know the purpose of writing and be introduced to important language features as well as key vocabulary. Writing provides a forum through which you can practice language usage. It should be noted that the 4 language skills, namely listening, speaking, reading and writing, do not exist independently. On the contrary, they are interconnected so that improving one will result in improvement in the others. Writing enables us to practice our language skills in a way that promotes noticing, since we are forced to notice certain grammar and vocabulary structures as we write and reflect on why some are used and not others. Care should be taken when writing so as to come up with work that is pleasing to read, since, as Samuel Johnson pointed out, what is written without effort is read without pleasure.
Importance of paraphrasing. Paraphrasing is a good way of testing one's ability to understand what one has read, since it is impossible to paraphrase what one has not understood. It is a valuable method of explanation. It enables one to express what he or she wants to say clearly or directly. It is a useful skill to help one make or take notes while reading, during a talk or a lecture, explaining information in tables, charts and diagrams, and for rewriting poetry or plays. How to write a paraphrase. To write a good paraphrase, you need to do the following. Read the passage several times until you understand it. Test your understanding by summarizing the main points orally to show you have got the gist of the passage. Look up the meaning of any words you do not understand and find the synonyms. Ask yourself what the main idea of the passage is. Also, determine the topic sentence and the supporting sentences. Put the main ideas and details in your own words. Look for transitional words, especially the addition and contrasting connectors or transitional phrases. Change the voice from active to passive voice. Change the order in which the ideas are presented as well as the order in which the words are presented in a sentence. To paraphrase effectively, use synonyms, antonyms, phrasal verbs, general verbs, and quotations. Sometimes you have to combine 2 or more sentences. For example, Jane was cooking ugali. Mary was preparing vegetable stew. Combine using while. While Jane was cooking, do not use cooking. While Jane was preparing ugali, Mary was making vegetable stew. Qualities of a good paraphrase. Qualities of a good paraphrase. A well-paraphrased passage should be clear, accurate, concise, and independent of the original passage. All the thoughts and ideas of the writer must be captured in the paraphrase. It should not be a summary of the original passage. Let us now look at a number of sentences to illustrate the changes a sentence undergoes when it is paraphrased. View the following animation. The hardest language to learn is Greek. This is the original sentence. The paraphrased sentence is shown below. The most difficult language to learn is Greek. Hardest is substituted by the synonym most difficult. Greek is the most difficult language to master. To learn has been substituted by the synonym to master, and the word order has also changed. Greek is one of the most difficult languages to master. A superlative has been used for emphasis. The sentence has been paraphrased. We will now look at the paraphrase of a paragraph. Original paragraph. My dear Reverend William Shindi, when I read and listen to the media and also speak to my friend working for the church, I get the impression that you may be getting wrong advice on certain fundamental issues that the Bible clearly teaches. The church's shifting position on corruption, divorce, and HIV and AIDS is symptomatic of a church leadership gone adrift. Let's get a more general passage. Paraphrase. The writer is telling the Reverend William Shindi that through information from the media and interaction with his or her friends in the church, he or she fears that the Reverend may be getting misleading advice on pertinent issues on the basis of what the Bible teaches. He feels that the church's changing position on corruption, divorce, and HIV and AIDS is an indication of a directionless church leadership. From the above, we observe that when you are paraphrasing, you make the initial text simpler and therefore easy to understand. We will now look at the paraphrase of a paragraph. Original paragraph. My dear Reverend William Shindi, when I
View the following animation. Summary. In order to write a good paraphrase, you are required to read the sentence, paragraph, or article several times to internalize the idea being expressed. Thereafter, think about the text, get its meaning, and restate that meaning in your own words. Ensure that you follow the steps of paraphrasing so as to keep to the original meaning of the text. To conclude, paraphrasing is a useful skill. We ought to learn it and use it. Format for quoting appropriately. The author. The surname comes first, followed by a comma, then the first name. For example, Kabira, Wanjiro Mukabiru. Use a full stop at the end. Title. Underline the title of the book and write the major words with a capital letter. For example, The Oral Artist. Town and year of publication. Use a colon after the town of publication and write the initial letters of the major words with a capital letter. For example, The Oral Artist. Town and year of publication. Use a colon after the town of publication and a comma after the name of the publisher, then write the year of publication. For example, Nairobi, Heinemann Educational Books East Africa Limited, 1983. Finally, you will end up with the following. Kabira, Wanjiro Mukabi, full stop. In capital letters, The Oral Artist, full stop. Nairobi, Heinemann Educational Books East Africa, 1983. This forms what is usually referred to as the bibliography. Punctuating headings. Read the following headings. A primary cause for KCSE. Police arrest dreaded gangster. Broken to be made whole. The river between. General Smith wants pirates. Note the following from the above headings. The initial letter in all the headings is in capital letters. Proper nouns within the heading begin with a capital letter. For example, General Smith wants pirates.
Summary. One must use the correct punctuation marks when writing titles of publications, quotations, and headings. When you use the exact words of another writer in your work, you ought to enclose those words in speech marks. Titles of publications must be underlined when presented in an academic paper. Headings should be written in bold. Curriculum vitae. A curriculum vitae is a written description of your personal information, educational background, work experience, and skills. It is also called a CV or vita.
To write a good CV, you need to do the following. Do a self-evaluation by asking yourself the following questions. What do I want to achieve? What are my strengths? Do I have special talents, skills, and gifts? What do I enjoy doing? What type of career do I wish to pursue? Do I have the necessary qualifications? How can I best prepare myself for this career? Identify your achievements. Have I excelled in certain subjects, activities, and areas? Have I excelled in any co-curricular activities, for example, clubs and societies? What are my educational and professional achievements? Which educational certificates do I have? For example, Kenya Certificate of Primary Education and Kenya Certificate of Secondary Education. Where and when did I earn them? Which certificate do I hold through training in various clubs? For example, Peer Counseling Club, First Aid, and Red Cross. What work experience do I have? Have I worked part-time, full-time, or as a volunteer in the community?
Referees: Mr. Abdi Fatah, Head of Department. Personal details. Name: Njeri Acheng Shivachi. Date of birth: 23rd January 1992. Sex: female. Marital status: single. Nationality: Kenyan. Postal address: PO Box 1234 Chwele. Email address: nachieng@yahoo.com. Mobile phone number: 0713214880. Career objective: to contribute to the well-being of the community by offering advice and creating awareness on the importance of education. Academic and professional training: 2007 to 2010, Faulu Girls High School, KCSE B+. Work experience: April 2010, Volunteer Student Advisor, Pwani Secondary School. December. Responsibilities: 2010, Chairperson Guidance and Counseling Club, Faulu Girls High School. Conferences, seminars, courses, and workshop attended. April 2009, attended Youth Leadership Conference, Machakos TTC, Machakos. Skills: computer skills, Microsoft Word. Hobbies: reading, traveling, and socializing. Referees: Mr. Abdi Fatah, Head of Department, Languages, Faulu Girls High School. PO Box 1566, Code 00360. Summary. Click to view the following animation. A curriculum vitae is supposed to market you, therefore, do not write anything negative. A curriculum vitae is supposed to market you, therefore, do not write anything negative. Do not lie about your qualifications and achievement. ensure you inform your referee that you have included them as referees so that they may respond appropriately when contacted by the institutions. When writing, do not use personal pronouns such as I and we. You should also use the simple past tense, especially when writing about your experience, responsibilities held, workshops, or seminars attended. Note that you will need to keep adjusting your CV as you advance in your career and gain more professional knowledge. Importance of paraphrasing. Paraphrasing is a good way of testing one's ability to understand what one has read, since it is impossible to paraphrase what one has not understood. Definition of a book review. Plot outline. Observe the following animation. Plot is the chronological order of events or ideas. One should consider whether the plot makes it easy for the reader to appreciate the content. Themes: alienation, racism, gender violence, oppression, time, death, relations to the gods. A theme is the central topic, concept, or a subject that an author is pointing out. Alienation, racism, gender violence, oppression, time, death, and relations to the gods are examples of themes found in literary works. This is only applicable to a literary work since in non-literary material you consider the topics. Below are other examples of common themes in literary works. Journey motif. Great Journey, a series of sad or happy episodic adventures as a character travels. For example, Adventures of Huckleberry Finn and the River and the Source by Margaret Ogola. Revenge. View the following animation. In the river between, Karanja betrays Wayaki since the latter has always outdone him in every aspect of their lives since their childhood. When Nyambura falls in love with Wayaki, Karanja betrays his friend out of jealousy so as to revenge for past hurts. Love and friendship. View the following animation. These themes are depicted in many literary works. For example, in The River Between, Romeo and Juliet, The Merchant of Venice, and many more. Corruption of morals or losing innocence. These themes involve the introduction of an innocent character to the wickedness of the adult world. For example, in the novel Lord of the Flies by William Golding. Selfless sacrifice. View the following animation. These themes involve characters laying down their lives for others. This could be an enemy, a loved one, a group, humankind, name it. The key point is that the protagonists offer themselves so as to rescue or salvage the lives of others. Great wars or battles. View the following animation. These themes explore conflicts or battles between two opposing sides. A great mystery. View the following animation. These themes are depicted in works where the protagonist must accomplish the daunting task of establishing the root cause of an unusual occurrence, falling from grace. View the following animation. When highly regarded individuals in the society are disgraced for contravening societal rules, the person may be described as having fallen from grace to grass. This was a taboo according to the Kikuyu culture, and so they rejected her leadership. This is an instance of human beings doing only what God should do and suffering the consequences. Fate. View the following animation. Fate is a force that predestines people to behave or live in a certain way. These people's lives are controlled by forces beyond their control. Whatever these individuals do cannot change the directions their lives are taking, since their destinies are fixed. This means that no matter what they do, their love is doomed to fail. In Ngugi wa Thiong'o's River Between, Waiyaki, the protagonist, also mirrors this aspect. His father Chege had warned him that the tribe would reject him just as they rejected Mugo the seer. And sure enough, as the story ends, Waiyaki is betrayed by the very people he is struggling to help. Trickery. View the following animation. This is the instance where one character plays a big trick on others. This theme is common in oral narratives. In the story of Luanda Magere, for example, the Lango play a trick on the Luo people by offering a bride to Luanda Magere. The aim of the Lango, though, is to unravel the secret behind Luanda Magere's prowess in order to subdue the Luo. Needless to say, Luanda Magere dies and the Lango win the battle. Common themes in the African context. Common themes in our African context are like love and friendship, politics, abuse of power, love, conflict between tradition and modernity, pain and suffering, materialism, religion, conflict between generations, armed conflicts, and so on and so forth. Language use. Evaluate the way language has been used in the work to find out if it captures the reader's imagination. In case the work being reviewed is a non-literary text, a reviewer ought to establish whether the language used is appropriate for the specified area of knowledge. One should also make an assessment of the appropriateness of language in relation to the target audience. Structural weaknesses. Another aspect to be considered when evaluating language use in a work is structural weaknesses. Establish whether there are any structural weaknesses which may distort the message. The weaknesses could include editorial errors, a disjointed plot outline, and factual errors. Conclusion of the analysis. The analysis should be concluded by weighing the strengths of the book over the inherent weaknesses. If the weaknesses outweigh the strengths, then you should not recommend the book to the target audience. Sometimes certain books, due to the nature of the field, are given a certain threshold to which it must pass. For example, a medical book is not allowed to have any factual errors because of the repercussions. Typical format of a book review. View the following animation. Reviewed by Bakari Omar, Ben Onyango, Philip Karaoke, etc. Strengths and weaknesses. A book review should capture the following aspects. Plot. Sequence of events as they unfold in the story. Literary. Organization of topics which are non-literary. Cover design. Decide whether the cover is relevant and attractive. Page outline. Is there consistency in the presentation of material? Binding. Is it firm? Language use, symbolism, irony, imagery, diction, and register. Characters. Distinguish whether the characters are major or minor and what role they are playing. Summary. When writing a book report, consider the following. Analyze the title critically. Check the preface or introduction. Go through the table of contents. Be objective when writing a book review. Do not let famous authors influence your judgment. Ponder over what the story is about. How are the characters brought out? How are the main ideas developed? Can you relate to any of these ideas? Is there a glossary that highlights key words? Is the writer's conclusion convincing? Consider the binding, layout, maps, and illustrations. Are they relevant? Last but not least, based on what you have gathered, would you recommend this book to another person? What to consider when writing a recipe. A good recipe should provide the following information. The title of the dish to be prepared, an introduction which should state the importance of the food to be served, The ingredients should be listed in the order in which they will be used and the exact amount. This will make it easy for someone to use the recipes. It also ensures that no ingredient is left out. Specific instructions for preparing the recipe should be given clearly and in a logical order. Utensils to be used should be appropriate in size. Sample recipe. Let us now look at a sample recipe. Recipe for the preparation of beef stew. Introduction. Beef stew is a nutritious and delicious dish served at dinner. Ingredients: half kg meat, beef, 1 large onion diced, 1 medium-sized green pepper diced, 3 large tomatoes sliced, 1 bunch coriander shredded, 2 tablespoonfuls cooking oil, 1 tablespoon Royco, 500 ml water. Method: cut the meat into smaller pieces if they are too large. Put into a saucepan, add half the onions, 1 cup of water, then bring to a boil until tender. Leave the meat to cook until all the water dries up. Add the oil and the rest of the onion. Stir and leave it to brown. Add the tomatoes, green pepper and coriander. Stir and then cover for a few minutes to let the tomato soften. Add the rest of the water and bring the stew to a boil, then allow to simmer for 10 minutes. Lift it from the source of fire, serve it hot with hot ugali, rice or chapati. Alternative ways of cooking. Beef may be boiled, roasted, fried or barbecued. Summary. As earlier observed, a recipe is a set of instructions for preparing food. It requires a title, introduction, ingredients, and methods or procedure. You should be economical with your words and clear instructions for very good results to be realized. Remember to indicate the number of servings and what makes the recipe special.